Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Last Shot NBA show. It is Friday morning. We are back again. As usual, this show is brought to you by our good friends at topsport.com.au, and it is a Friday morning. That means we've got our good friend Benyam Kidane from NBA Australia joining us. BK, what is happening?
Good to be in the building, my man. How you doing?
I'm good. You know, it's the season. It's exciting, man. So it's holding my interest. We've got a lot of games to talk about. There was a lot of games on the schedule yesterday, 13 games. We've got a lot to talk about, BK. Let's get straight into it. But first, I want to talk about somebody that is actually not playing at the moment. John Wall and the Houston Rockets. This seems to be a bit of a reverse Ben Simmons situation. The Houston Rockets promised that they were going to trade him because he doesn't want to be there. He's got 2 years and $40 million, I believe, still owing on his contract, or give or take. They're not trading him. Apparently, a report came out yesterday said that they're basically not going to play for anyone this season, not the Houston Rockets and not anybody else. So, BK, what do you make of this whole situation?
Did we find the first untradeable contract in NBA history?
Yeah.
I mean, we thought it was Chris Paul. We thought it was Russell Westbrook. Obviously, John Wall got traded for Russell Westbrook, but you're right. He's owed 43 or something a year for the next 2 seasons. So that is a tough contract to move, but it's a tricky one because from the Rockets' perspective, I understand why they don't want to play John Wall. They're not trying to win too many games this season.
Yeah,
they're in a rebuild, and on top of that, they want Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. to be getting those reps in the backcourt. So for them, the development of these guys is paramount, and plus the development of these guys is going to coincide with them not winning a lot of games. So, I mean, I feel for John Wall because John Wall was hooping with the Rockets. He's healthy. He's not the same John Wall, but he's adjusted his game a little bit. I think he can still be a pretty productive player for a lot of teams, especially when you look at some of these contenders. So, for him, I don't know if he's explicitly not wanting to play for the Rockets, but you got to think for a guy who's come off, back-to-back injuries, has missed a lot of basketball. You think he just wants to play anywhere at this point, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. It doesn't seem to be the case. The Rockets don't want to play him. You talk about untradeable contract. Look, if someone's taken on Westbrook's contract and Chris Paul's contract, you would hope that someone would take a chance on John Wall, because he did show me something when he was playing just before, when he'd come back from those injuries. He's had a horror run of injuries. So I would like to see him back on the court. We'll have to wait to see how that one plays out. Maybe a Ben Simmons for John Wall trade. Who knows?
Well, often in these situations, those big contracts only really get traded for each other. So unless you can find someone that's making north of 30 mil, like a Ben Simmons, and maybe throw in some extra pieces to make that work, that just kind of limits your options in terms of what the Rockets can actually do, without kind of looking at a buyout type situation.
Facts. Now, next one I want to talk about, BK, is actually one of the players that you mentioned, Jalen Green. I was watching this game yesterday, Houston versus Detroit, and I wasn't expecting much because both teams are kind of in the same situation. But I was very pleasantly surprised. Turned out to be a great game. Jalen Green versus Cade Cunningham, the first matchup between the number 1 and the number 2 draft pick this year. Jalen won the individual stat battle, 23 points. Cade had 20, but the Detroit Pistons got the win. What did you see from that, BK?
I mean, I got to start with Jalen Green. Kind of putting on the show with the big dunks, the trash talk. Like, he knows what this is. He wants to be Rookie of the Year. He thinks he should have been the number 1 pick. So I respect the energy from Jalen Green. It was pretty contrasting between the two guys. Cade just kind of quietly went about his business. There was nothing flashy in his game, but still very, very productive. And Jalen Green's game is just loud. It's athletic. It's above the rim. Like, you feel every one of Jalen Green's buckets. So I really like the matchup. I mean, getting a national TV game for two terrible teams, that kind of shows you how big a deal this kind of matchup is. And it could be one of those things that this is the beginning of a very long rivalry. You know, the top two picks, both guys have franchise cornerstone kind of written all over them, and you know their respective franchises kind of hope that they're going to be the guys that kind of lead them out of their current dire situations. But I really liked watching these two guys go against each other because the talent level for these two guys is off the charts.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And what I loved was that, you know, Jalen Green was attacking from the outset. Like you could see he was really looking to go at Cade. And Cade was like, it was like he was playing chess. You know, It was like, all right, I'm going to let you have this. You know, and then at one point, you know, Jalen threw down, he dunked on Cade, had a little bit of trash talk to him. And I was like, oh, okay, young blood. But, you know, post game, they asked Cunningham about it. He said, look, and this is what I love this quote as well. He said, nothing I heard tonight held any real weight. It was all for the cameras, I thought. And I love this because, you know, like you said, these two are going to be going at each other for a very long time. It's going to be very exciting to watch. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but he had a couple of dunks, and the way he kind of exploded kind of reminded me a little bit of Ja Morant a little bit in just that sort of way he was able to just basically spring up.
Is he the most athletic player in the league? I know it's only been 10 games, but this guy can fly.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's got to be him and Ja, right? Like,
yeah, I see a dunk contest on the horizon for Jalen Green in the not too distant future.
Yeah, let's try and give the NBA some ideas on that. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
He's got the showmanship. He's got the athleticism. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Look, another big performance yesterday, BK. Anthony Edwards erupted for a career-high 48 points against the Golden State Warriors. Golden State won the game 123-110. That's 6 losses in a row for the Minnesota Timberwolves. BK, what did you see from Edwards, and what the hell is going on in Minnesota right now?
I mean, they started 3-1. Things were looking kind of good. And the Timberwolves kind of just fell back into being the Timberwolves again over the last couple of weeks. But from an individual standpoint, I love what I'm seeing from Anthony Edwards. He's really justifying that number 1 pick. You know, he came along in the second half of that rookie season last year, but from what I've seen from him, it's almost as though he's already the leader of this team. I know Karl Anthony Towns is the franchise guy, he's the max guy, but in terms of the emotional energy of this team, it really runs through Anthony Edwards, and he kind of does have that future leader, or really current leader, written all over him. And the fact that he's already had 3 40-point games, you know, knocking down 7 threes, it's the way he's kind of scoring. He's expanding his game. This is a guy that wasn't a shooter last season. Now he's knocking down, you know, big numbers of 3-pointers, and just the expansion of his game. He's scoring at all 3 levels. He's getting to the rim. He's hitting those mid-range jumpers. He's just kind of doing everything. And I'm excited because this could very well soon be his team, if it may not already be.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what could happen with Cat in the future, you know, how long he's going to stick around. And I think you hit the nail on the head with, you know, his overall game. When you compare him to another Timberwolves number 1 pick in Andrew Wiggins, who showed us a lot of potential when he was with the Timberwolves, but he never could get that sort of consistency going. Anthony Edwards seems to be sort of working on his game, getting that consistency going, you know, making sure that he's going to stay at the top of his game for a long time to come. Now, as far as the Timberwolves, like, I agree with you there. Timberwolves just started doing Timberwolves things again, so I don't think they're going to be very good for the rest of the season. But yeah, if we get more 48-point performances out of Anthony Edwards, I'm all for it. Now, another exciting game yesterday ended up going to overtime. The Los Angeles Lakers ended up winning 120-117 in overtime. 7-5 on the season now, 7th in the West. They've won 2 in a row. They're still not quite looking very cohesive as a unit, though. BK, what did you see from yesterday's game?
It's a different Laker team that steps out on the floor every night, and especially without LeBron. I know they're 3-3. Without LeBron this season, so they've managed to kind of steady the ship a little bit, but you just don't really know what you're going to get from them each night. And you know, Russell Westbrook had that triple double. He was big for them, you know, despite missing that potential game winner at the end. But he had some big buckets down the stretch for them to get it into OT. But it's different guys stepping up. Malik Monk had 27. We've seen what Carmelo Anthony's been doing, but the big thing for me is, especially in this stretch without LeBron, AD has to be the best player on the floor every night. It has to run through AD. And you can see that him and Westbrook are slowly starting to figure things out a little bit. But this is the first time Russell Westbrook's played with a center who actually demands the ball, who needs touches, who runs things through. He's played his career with guys that are going to grab rebounds, set screens, and kind of work for him. So just trying to find that balance, I think, is probably going to take a bit longer than people expect, just because it is so different for both of these guys. But I'm still confident they'll make it work, because in this league, talent wins out above everything else.
Yeah, 100%. It does. I agree with you that Anthony Davis does need to be the best player on the floor each night with LeBron out. Look, Russell Westbrook, we've spoken about this. I'm not the biggest fan of his game. I felt like he kind of showed yesterday. I was getting ready to tweet, because you're right, he did hit some big shots, heading late into that fourth quarter, heading into OT. And then when it came down to the last shot, I was getting ready to tweet, Russell Westbrook giveth and Russell Westbrook taketh away. And I knew he was going to take a bad shot, and he did. So you can't rely on Russell Westbrook being your best player night in and night out. I do think Anthony Davis has to step up. You touched on Malik Monk. I thought he was great yesterday as well. He strung a few nice games together. 27 points yesterday. I think he's had 10 and 13 in his previous 2. So they're going to need guys like him to step up, because if it's the old guys, Carmelo and Westbrook, constantly having to be the best guys on the floor each night, I think they are going to struggle.
Yeah, they got to start running these late game sets for Melo. My man's hot right now. What are we doing here?
Honestly, I knew Westbrook was going to take that bad shot yesterday, and in my mind, I was just like, why is Melo not taking this shot?
Especially because Westbrook has that gravity where he will attract defenders if he gets into the paint, because you don't want to see him in the paint. But if he's just kind of rocking out on the three-point line, defenses will live with that. Whereas if they can kind of get some actions going, where it's, maybe you're running a pick and roll with AD, pick and pop, or getting some action on the three-point line for Melo, I think they kind of have to mix things up a little bit, because I love Russell Westbrook, but that's not his game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. They've got a lot of injuries. We don't know how much longer LeBron's going to be out for with that abdominal issue. Can they stay healthy, BK, throughout the season, or is this going to be a common occurrence for them, having guys just drop out?
Hey, that's one for the basketball gods, but I don't necessarily.
I thought you were the basketball gods.
It's a matter of the Lakers staying healthy. It's really LeBron staying healthy, because if you have a healthy LeBron on the floor, you can paper over a lot of cracks if you have that guy healthy for the majority of the season. The other thing is, though, at this point in his career in year 19, we're starting to see some injuries creep in. The basketball gods, Father Time is undefeated. I'm not ready to write off LeBron, but are we maybe going to see him kind of just dial it back until the postseason gets here? Because they do have enough talent, theoretically on paper, to get there. And then if LeBron's healthy for the playoffs, then, that was kind of their approach last season. That didn't really work because him and AD weren't healthy. But at this point, is LeBron already kind of having one eye on the postseason?
Yeah, I think if that is the approach that they are going to take, I think it's going to be tough for them, because they're already sort of having some chemistry issues, in the sense of they're still learning how to play with each other. So if you're going to have guys resting or not being out throughout the season, I think it's just going to be very, very hard for them to turn it on come playoffs. Even if they are a 6 seed, 7, 4, whatever it may be, it's going to be very hard for them to switch it on just like that in the playoffs. So we'll see how it plays out with the Lakers. BK, that's all we've got time for today. We're going to have a look at some predictions. Only 3 games on the schedule today, so a bit of a break compared to yesterday. We've got the Raptors at 76ers. The Philadelphia 76ers, $1.62 favorites. The line is at 4. The total is at 211.5. You know what? I think the Philadelphia 76ers will win today in a close one, because I do like the Toronto Raptors. I think they've been playing well.
The Sixers have been hooping. They've kind of had guys in and out of the lineup a lot, but I've been watching a lot of the Raptors this season, and they're a kind of team that can punk you if you're not ready. They play hard. I like Scotty Barnes, and they just have like 5 interchangeable, long, athletic dudes that can kind of do everything for them. So I'm gonna go with the Raptors. I think this is a little bit of a sneaky game that could get away from the Sixers here.
Yeah, I can see that. Next game up on the schedule, Pacers at Jazz. Jazz Yeah, big favourites here, no surprise. $1.20. Indiana Pacers $4.90. The line is at 10.5. Total's at 216. I'm going with the favourites here. I think the Utah Jazz, with the exception of the Golden State Warriors, are probably the hottest team in the NBA right now.
Yeah, take that line. The Jazz are looking good, and mainly because Donovan Mitchell is starting to look good. He kind of had a slow start to the season, but his last 3-4 games, he's just been crushing fourth quarters. So I'm a rock with the Jazz too.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one for today. And the last game on the schedule, the Miami Heat at the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers, $1.44 favorites. Miami, $2.93. The line's at 6. The total is at 212. I'm going with the Clippers, BK. I think they've won about 5 in a row. Paul George has just been absolutely great this season. I like the Clippers. I think they're a bit of a sneaky team, a bit of a dark horse to watch out for in the Western Conference. This is an easy one for me. I think the Clippers win. Miami on the second night of a back-to-back, coming off a loss as well. So I'm going with the Clippers.
And Jimmy Butler, he left that game yesterday against the Lakers with an ankle injury as well. So I'm not sure his status for this game. This could be a bit of a tough one, as you said, second game in 2 nights. So I like the Clippers at home especially, but I still just think this Miami Heat team is good enough even without Jimmy Butler to win this game.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because they play
right.
defense. And they got perimeter defenders that can look after Paul George. So
absolutely.
That's a tough thing with Butler as well. But they have other guys. They have PJ Tucker. They have guys on the perimeter that can do a job.
Yeah, it's just going to be a case of next man up for the Miami Heat. We'll have to wait to see how that plays out. BK, thank you very much once again. We'll see you on Monday morning as usual. And thank you very much for tuning in, everyone that's been watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with all the content that we've got, and we'll see you guys on Monday.